Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. A little bit late starting this afternoon, but then such is the want of technology. Steve Cohen from the Duggan is just trying to join us. We've got Bruce, and then joining us from a bunker, because the world for sure is about to end, are the good folks from Astral AR. That's Jose and Lee. So good day to you folks. Good day, everybody. How are we all doing?
Wonderful, wonderful, living the dream.
So far, so good.
All right, we'll do our best to change that now. Let's talk straight away to you. Now, I meant to have this in front of me. You've got quite a big, really, of diversity, transparency, and saving the world. That's fairly all-encompassing, and great names for your drones. Edna, Charlie. I'm loving it. Perhaps you can unpack all that a little bit more than my dreadful introduction did.
Oh, simple. All our drones are actually named after women. Charlie as in fire starter.
Yeah, Charlie is our fire drone. That we've tabled that design indefinitely as we focus on the Edna, but Charlie is named after Firestarter. Stephen King.
And why is that? Why is Edna getting more focus? What did Edna do right?
So Edna doesn't have to be certified as a firefighting implement. It's just an additional bureaucratic barrier that we don't have to overcome in order to bring the Edna to market. So really, that's what that comes down to. Edna is a lot easier to. When I say easy, this is all relative. It happens at the speed of government.
Also, Edna was the name of her dad's Harley, and it was named after his mom.
My dad's motorcycle. So my dad was a card-carrying member of the Hells Angels, amongst other things. He was. Damn it, Dad! Stop being cooler than me. So yeah, he named his.
Did the Hells Angels carry cards?
Yes, they do.
Come on.
Yeah, actually they do.
Everybody does.
Yeah, nowadays everyone does. Yeah, so he. Yeah, he also. I mean, yeah. So he named his bike Edna, which I named his bike for him, and what should I name her? And look, Dad, name her after your mother. So that's where Edna came from. Edna was the name of my dad's mother.
And that's your bullet stopping, documents law enforcement, and optimizes hostage rescue drone. How does it manage to do all of these things? I see baseline features. Oh,
yeah, it's not as this is. Not nearly as awesome as one might think. It's not that difficult. It's really not. It's half of the secret sauce is in the armor. We were able to source a type of kind of a super material. It is extremely lightweight.
Basically, it's a metallic foam.
Yeah, it's capable of stopping up to a 50 cal.
Now, then on top of that, we have about 3 AIs that actually do the searching for the guns and stuff.
We have some sensor fusion that's taking place directly on the drone.
Computer vision is very funny. When we say see, it doesn't mean like see as a living being sees.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a visual the visual spectrum that we're describing. The sensor fusion that we're performing, we just laid a permanent patent on this, and it includes, I know, right? High five. And it includes some specialized sensors, some of which have been repurposed for the task, and some of which have been. We were able to source, like I said, we have relationships with some research universities that we were able to source some specialized sensors that make it possible for us to be able to do this if we use them all together.
Wow. How did you arrive at doing this? Why are you bothering to do this? Why are you being a very socially aware drone company? Surely that goes against hang on, let's look at the drone playbook. It's not on page 1, rule 1. It's not the thing to do.
I know, right?
That payload is incomplete.
We disrupt the disruptors. Just ask TechCrunch.
More importantly, despite what it may seem, it's actually beneficial for a company to actually have a lot of social responsibility.
Capital. Yeah, social capital.
When everybody does well, everybody does well.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like when everyone does well, everyone does well. It's crazy. With that in mind, we were just on Sirius XM yesterday morning, and we were speaking with some of the higher profile individuals associated with Black Lives Matter, and we picked up an endorsement specifically from that. So
Next endorsement we're looking for is Fraternal Order of Police.
Yeah, Fraternal Order of Police. So
how do you go about that? How do you go about picking up that? It just explains to me. I don't know, how would that work?
With what?
The Black Lives Matter or the Fraternal Order of Police?
How do you get their endorsement? What are they endorsing you for?
Well, specifically, we build drones that stop bullets, and we do it expressly for the purpose of minimalizing gun violence, and that includes use of force, specifically by police. Police are not. That's the thing. Police are not bad guys. Nobody goes and signs up to be a cop because they're a bad guy. That's not why you do that.
Yeah, they don't go, when you're a kid, you don't go like, oh, I want to grow up to be a police so I can shoot people.
Yeah,
no,
that's
they're
not
like,
how that
I'm
works.
going to save people.
Yeah, so when you give them the opportunity to reclaim that, you give them the opportunity to what our technology does for police, and it actually police are actually very, very enthusiastically accepting and eager to acquire and access and to implement this, because it eliminates the possibility of human error. There are no more situations where, you discover that, oh, this person was unarmed. That doesn't have to happen anymore. So we've provided them with an alternative.
More than that, there's no ambiguity. There's no you have to make this decision in a split second or you will die. Instead, the drone will give you a complete situational awareness. You will know what's going on before you even have to step out of the car.
Yeah.
So instead of that doubt that, oh, what if they have a gun? What if they aim their gun at me? Blah, blah, blah. Now instead it's, okay, the gun is in a lockbox under the chair. The passenger has a concealed licensed fireman permit, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there is no ambiguity, and furthermore, there is the certainty that under any circumstances, under all circumstances, the drone isn't going to let anything happen to you.
It will get in the way.
It will get in the way. It will put itself in the way. It will act as a flying shield. So having that confidence and having that sense of security is the kind of thing that police are, like I said, they're pretty eager to have this new tool.
Take this scenario. There's a guy walking down the street waving a gun. The drone gets deployed, it scans, it sees that the gun is not loaded. It sees that the guy is not wearing any armor whatsoever, and through facial recognition, it finds that he is a VA patient with a PTSD diagnosis.
Right, so that's veterans, specifically veterans. So you've discovered that this is a vet with a PTSD diagnosis, who is brandishing a weapon, but it's not loaded.
It's suicide by cop.
Yeah, this is not the crisis that it appears to be. This is a mental health situation. Call the crisis officer.
Every single time.
No reason to escalate this into lethal force. This is not actually a lethally dangerous situation, and the drone is capable of discerning that.
Every single time we say this.
Yeah, police get all bright-eyed. They get all bright-eyed when you tell them that.
They think about the last time they had to deal with that.
Yeah, the last time that they had to deal with that, and the last time that went south, and they know a situation that this is going to arise, and that they are. I mean, this is one of their fears. And being able to offer them a solution to that, which doesn't involve putting someone in the hospital, is extremely attractive, obviously. I mean, you wake up in the morning and you don't think, I'm going to be a bad guy.
Sure. So could we just sort of call this sort of a rich situational awareness tool or something? And the drone is part of a bit.
Yeah. We call it predictive probable cause. We've actually trademarked that.
Probable cause, PPC. They make cement here, PPC. But anyway, that's another thing. So in the comments, iForce2D, it says, so are you saying that the drone can stop a 50 cal and keep flying, or just that it will not be permanently damaged?
We actually don't know how many 100%. Times. Yeah, that's a question that we get quite a bit. And we actually, at this point, we are still gathering data. Police are actually assisting us in testing out this armor.
If you get to shoot at something,
get the cops to help you. Get the cops to help you. The cops, they're great at it,
and it's they have to practice at it too.
Yeah, they had to practice anyway. So, everybody wins. Okay. But we're still gathering data as to determine how many times can the drone get shot before it gets knocked out of the air.
But at the end of the day, it's just like that cop that got shot point blank on the chest, and his cell phone saved him.
Yeah,
that cell phone wasn't working anymore after that.
Yeah,
but it saved his life.
Yeah.
Same thing with drone. All it needs is one bullet to be stopped by that drone, and that drone was a success.
Yeah, as long as it works once, you win. I mean, raise your hand if you want to get shot. So that's pretty much I know, right? As long as it works once, and we can guarantee that it will work at least once.
Indeed.
I mean, I can build you another drone.
We can't actually build you another human being.
You were a lot harder to put into production than this drone.
Fair comment and fair play. And iForce2D is also asking, how does the drone discern that the gun is not loaded? So I was also wondering that.
That is
gunpowder.
Yeah, actually, we can't delve in too deeply to that. But there is a highly specialized sensor that we happen to have access to this because we were working with law enforcement. We had to fight the Navy for it.
And we won.
Yeah,
okay.
We had to fight the Navy, right? And so, yeah, because we were working with law enforcement, that actually has a lot to do with how we are able to access a lot of the things that we're able to source. It's because we're doing this specifically for law enforcement at the municipal level. It'll be the everyday cop that you interact with on a daily basis that gets access to these. So it is a highly specialized sensor that is capable of discerning things that explode.
More than that, it lets people be the hero. It lets the people that are supposed to be the good guys be the good guys again.
But toward specifically the technical aspects of how we do this, like I said, we are using a set of highly specialized sensors, some of which were not originally designed to do anything remotely like this, that we repurposed for this, that we had to, in some cases, reverse engineer in order to get them to do this.
Plus, so gunpowder, it might as well be a neon sign.
So go ahead.
You don't have to give away the secrets too much. You're going to have to help me here a little bit. Let's say that this is a gun. Some say the pen is mightier than the sword, but anyway, that's another thing. Are you going to have to look, for the want of a better term, down the barrel of the gun, or can you look where the rounds go? How can you?
Time out. Open that pen.
Yeah, open up the pen. Open up the pen.
I'm a little bit afraid now. Okay.
Do you smell something now?
You smell something, right? You smell the smell of the marker, right? A little bit.
Gunpowder is like neon like sign.
Okay, you revealed my dirty secret and why it's here. But anyway, there we are.
Is that why you've got it all over your?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I thought you messed with your lipstick.
Yeah.
So what if the drone's operating upwind of the pit?
Go ahead. I didn't hear.
What if the drone is operating upwind of the person of interest?
That's not quite how it works. That's kind of a crude example, but it's similar to that. The detection, the type of detection that particular sensor performs is similar to smell. It's not actually smell, and yeah, it is just to be clear, this is a sensor fusion that is used to make the ultimate determination that this is in fact a gun. That, for example, it has to have the right shape. It has to have, we have the ability to discern between a fake gun and a real gun because a fake gun doesn't involve gunpowder.
And a loaded gun versus a loaded gun because a loaded gun has way more gunpowder than a loaded gun.
It's a matter of quantity. There has to be a minimum amount of gunpowder involved as opposed to simply residue. We have the ability to discern the difference.
It's the same reason why we do not do drug detection.
Too many false positives.
Yep. You go to an ATM and you have contaminated bills.
Yeah, you go to the bank and the money that you get from the bank is contaminated. That's why we don't get involved in controlled substances. Things that explode is where we draw the line.
Yep.
And was that a conscious business decision? And did you work that out quite quickly?
Yes, it was very easy.
It was the sheer amount of work to do to get down to the detail and the false positives.
I can't. It's kind of like here's a similar situation this was actually a technical decision that we also don't get involved in anything that isn't a gun. Bombs is pushing it. It has to do with. We don't get involved in things like swords or knives. We can't tell the difference between a letter opener and a steak knife because the shape.
I can't tell the difference.
At a distance, because the shape is not distinct enough. Because the use case, because the contexts in which one handles a gun are very, very distinct. You cannot put a gun into play in a whole the options are limited. They're straight up limited. It's going to end up in a hand in order to be in play, if that makes sense.
Like this?
Yeah, you can't.
Or like this.
The hands have to be involved in some manner. You can't. We don't actually have a use case for what happens if someone can fire a gun with their feet.
Yeah, that's
we don't
way out of
anticipate
luck there.
we don't anticipate running into that that is beyond an edge case. And it's very, very similar. So
wow. And what sort of distance are we talking about? Is the thing 100 meters away or 1 meter away from the perp?
it depends on how long it's looking at it.
Okay. The more time it spends looking at it, the more distances it can actually use.
The farther away it can detect. The longer it and it works. The more drones that you have in action, the better the detection and the faster the detection can work. There are situations in which it is possible for us to use limited amount of stuff that I can say right there.
Let's put it this way: if the drone was stationed in a, let's say, a school, Sandy Hook would not have happened.
Exactly. It's the ability to prevent Sandy Hook.
It would have spotted him like half a mile away, and the closer he would get, the more alarm bells they would ring.
The more of an anomaly is detected, if that makes sense.
I suppose, though, that would be the case if you'd put cameras and sensors on every corner of the building and kept them there 24/7 and lit up. So I assume you can mount all of this onto a building as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the building.
In this particular context, believe it or not, it actually works better if it's moving.
Because then it can reanalyze, check.
Yeah.
If you have something that's standing still, the thing that's moving has an advantage.
Yeah, one of the ways that we discern this involves a delta, and it's a delta of where an object was versus where an object is. It's one of the ways that we discern what an anomaly happens to be.
I'm just putting a link in the live comments to this for those following along at home. I'm a little bit stuck for words. I'm amazed you come in with the best answers. It's really good. Bruce, come on, Bruce. You must. And Steve, I hope you can hear us. Can you, Steve? It's all working, is it?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm here. Hello.
Good. All right, we'll come to you in a minute. I'm sure, Bruce. I'm sure you must have 1,000 questions.
No. I'd have to say that I'm skeptical because although most of the stuff that's been discussed has the potential to work, the reality, as much as I'm aware, is that this is still, like theoretical stuff. And for example, guns don't have gunpowder; they have nitrocellulose and other stuff, which isn't the same as gunpowder. So maybe you're obfuscating the facts to protect your intellectual property, but
bingo.
I don't know. I wouldn't trust my life to this. It'll be. Have you got any tests? Have you done any tests you can disclose publicly so people can see the evidence that this works?
It's all in the patent stuff. So
we will very, very soon. Yeah. We will very, very soon. We will be able to start disclosing some of the results.
Otherwise, our lawyers will kill us.
Yeah, this lawyer's outfit.
Yeah. They will have puppies. They have kittens.
We just had this conversation with earlier today. But toward that, yes, you are correct. We are oversimplifying and we are glossing over. In some cases, we are making reference to partner technologies that we don't have full insight into. We don't need full insight into. All we need is the readouts, the data that we have incorporated into what we're working on. So you're absolutely right. We are simplifying and we are glossing over certain facts.
Indeed, but otherwise our lawyers would have kittens.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that we can't dig into. Yeah, you understand. And also, when we're working with law enforcement to perform these tests, there's a certain amount that we can't say as a consequence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're removing the human element, but you're not really, because you are transferring the human element to whoever designed the system. So there's still a human element. If that machine makes a mistake, it means the policeman doesn't make a mistake, but the programmer or the person who designed the AI system or the recognition system, he's the guy that's made the mistake. So it doesn't remove the human element, it transfers it from one person to another person, or one group to another group.
To be more accurate, it actually, what it eliminates is the split-second human making decision. And that's the problem right there.
That is the place where mistakes and regrets happen.
And cost less.
And to be able to analyze, there are certain aspects that factor into the making of that decision that we have eliminated, like, for example, racial bias. There is no racial bias at all as far as the drones are concerned, because the drones aren't capable of perceiving that. But
can you argue that you might have some sort of nasty programmer that would build that in. Could it not go that way?
You could, I guess you could, but I have a very hard time believing. First off, I would question how we would miss an entire additional algorithm running concurrently with what we've already got that we wouldn't notice.
Yeah, they would have to make it more complicated than it is for it to be a problem.
Yeah, exponentially more complicated than is already involved. And it's already so complicated that it pushes the limits of what is possible.
It's the same reason why the active shooter protocol will activate no matter who puts out the gun. The active shooter protocol is...
We're not capable. What he's referring to is we are not capable of discerning the difference between law enforcement and non-law enforcement. We cannot tell that. I can't tell the difference that I would struggle to tell the difference between a really good cop costume and an actual police officer. I mean, I wouldn't, how do I tell the drone which is which? So the drone, you think about things like what about someone who's undercover? That's the kind of thing that would blow if the drone reacts differently to someone who's undercover, that would blow their cover instantly. So we don't even try. The drone is not capable of discerning who's holding the gun or why. All it is capable of detecting is that is a thing that is happening.
It's like KISS. When you complicate things, that's when the problem happens.
Keep it simple or get shot.
That's simple.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, you haven't really thought that through though, have you? Because the drone could differentiate between a person and a policeman. All you need is every enforcement officer has a small transponder. Immediately you can do that. So that would seem to be a key safety factor to me, but you haven't included it.
There is a problem with that thing. That's external problems. What if that transponder is failing?
Yeah. What if you butt dialed it?
Indeed, there are so many. The more you complicate things with like verifications and countersigns and stuff.
Yeah.
The more easy. And what's stopping a private citizen from actually hacking a copy of their transponder and selling it to the bad guys?
Yeah, that's the last thing you want. The simpler and the more autonomous this behavior is, the harder it is to tamper with.
Indeed.
I'm a little bit lost here. Isn't this just already wildly complicated? You're make it.
It is.
It is. That's why I said. That's why we're trying to simplify as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely it is so complicated that that no one has done it yet. That's really what it comes down to. And the fact that we're doing it at all is, it's ambitious as hell.
And
go ahead.
What about liability in the case that the system gives a false positive and indicates that the person is a threat and they should be shot, and it turns out they're not? Do you carry the can for that?
There is under no circumstances do they identify a person who is a threat and should be shot. If they identify a person who is a threat who might create that situation, they will attempt to get themselves shot.
Not the person.
Yeah,
the drone itself.
The drones don't deliver judgment. Yeah, the drone will try to get itself. That is the whole point of the drone. The drone will try to get itself shot.
This is the drone.
Yeah, the drone will try to get in the way. It's going to try to.
No matter where that person is aiming, the drone will get in the way.
Yeah,
instead of just shoot this guy, it's more like, hey, the guy I'm blocking.
Ignore me, I dare you. Ignore me, I dare you. Try real hard.
If that drone can absorb one shot, I'm sure that the perpetrator is going to have more than one round in the magazine. So he shoots the drone falls on the ground, may save the officer's life, but then another shot takes out the officer. How do you handle that situation?
Under those circumstances, considering that this is designed to be a partnered, this solution is only deployed in partnered situations, you would have to, during the time that someone is shooting the drone, the officer's partner is unleashing, like, for example, a taser. At that point, we try to extract ourselves from the law enforcement, decision-making paradigm, whatever choice they decide is necessary to neutralize the situation. The point of the drone is to de-escalate so that this doesn't have to be, a lethal situation.
Yeah, let's not start a gunfight. Let's start a taser fight instead, or let's start a tackle.
One of the tackle this guy. So take his legs out, pants him for God's sakes. You've got all kinds of choices. But with that in mind, another question that we get quite a bit is what happens if there's multiple shooters, and how many shooters do you introduce before this becomes a war zone? This was designed for use by municipal law enforcement. We don't anticipate having 16 shooters in 16 different places.
Yeah, if that's the problem, the drone itself is calling for backup.
Yeah, the drone is calling for backup at that point because we didn't design this to be used in war zones like that. that's farther down the roadmap.
Indeed.
And is all this being done on board, or does it communicate with a computer somewhere else? All on board. It's all on board.
All on board. Yes, all on board. We work directly with Microsoft, and we are Intel IoT partners. We're working directly with Microsoft and a couple of the other the big boys to help us. It's part of
our simplicity thing. If it doesn't have to run through the wire, it's less points of failures.
There is no there's no possibility for
someone
lag.
hacking the information too.
Oh yeah, lag. There's also, of course, you know, to be used in a law enforcement context, we have to be very, very aware of the regulatory requirements for maintaining, because we don't collect any data. You think, oh my God, this can see through walls. That's a nightmare. That would be a nightmare. We don't get involved in that.
Now, see, the word see is kind of disingenuous because it doesn't actually like see like a physical, like a biological being kind of sight.
It can't see anything that it wasn't trained to look for. So it's not like it can watch you shower or anything. It's not capable of seeing that.
Well, I know there's quite a few breath sensors.
Where's the funding for this coming from? Is it privately funded? Is it an Indiegogo? Obviously, this is a huge amount of capital involved and a long development time. So where does the money come from to make this a reality?
So
couple of places,
a couple of different places. We do have a little bit of VC backing. We are a Capital Factory Accelerator startup. But toward that, most of the funding that's gone into this has come from, so I was a software developer for 15 years. So I have a network of colleagues that, for the most part, most of the funding that we had that has been put into this so far has come from other developers who have then joined up. I mean, we're extremely engineer heavy, and we pay minimal. We have minimal burn in the sense that people pay us to join in and help, and we have some world-class people on our team as far as engineers are concerned because of this.
Also, as well as being 15 years a developer, she was 5 years in the IRS.
Yeah, I worked for the IRS for quite a few years, and actually my trainer from the IRS ended up going in on us. So I mean, I guess, hey, but yeah, most of the money that's gone into this has come from other developers, from other engineers, other nerds.
Another source is government grants and things like that.
Knowing how to and being able to leverage, like for example, this guy's his mother is the Dean Emeritus of Science at the University of Puerto Rico. Being able to dial into, I know, right? His cousin is the First Lady of Puerto Rico. I'm not even kidding. And so being able to dial into the available resources, like for example, academia, and also at the state, federal, and local level, helps to propel us where
we need
where normally you would use investment capital.
I see on your website there's lots of images of 3DR Solo. What autopilot are you using for your machine?
So right, the 3DR Solo, we don't do, okay. So we overrode, just to clarify, we overrode the piloting system at a low level.
We're platform agnostic.
Yeah. The 3DR Solo that you see there, we don't do a whole lot of active development for that particular platform, or really for 3DR.
However, though, the Department of Interior has endorsed the 3DR as the official drone.
So we keep a couple around. Yeah. So we keep a couple around. But really, there's what's actually running on that is not what you would anticipate.
Indeed. Well,
we hijacked it. We hacked the hell out of it.
The main platform we prefer is the Intel Arrow drone platform. This is because of a couple of things. Number one, we are Intel IoT partners.
Aside from that, yeah, we're not necessarily married to the platform, but it just happens to be very well adapted to.
And it makes it easier.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. It helps that they're willing to help.
Indeed.
But with that in mind, we're not married to it, and what you will find on our drone is substantially different from what would be delivered to you if you were to order.
Statement.
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, amongst other things, we have our battery sources are. Don't ask me where we get them. I won't tell you, but we get them custom prototyped from a research.
They used to have.
Yeah, so we as opposed to deep, we could deep dive into that. I got to tell you, Intel was more interested in our battery resources than anything else. So you assholes.
Yep. One of the choices actually is no longer viable because it costs twice as much to make.
Yeah, it's too expensive to make. It's too dangerous for them to make it. But God, if we could still get that.
But the other ones are still damn good.
Yeah, we still our energy resources are about 3 times as efficient as what you would get off the shelf at for example, this.
Well then, Well, then that immediately leads me to ask, then, what is the flight time of your unit full of sensors? That must be very heavy.
Right, with or without the armor.
Yeah.
That's actually why we do this. We do this expressly because it is quite a bit heavier than it was originally designed to be. So yeah, it's without the additional accoutrements, it would be about 90 minutes.
Wow. Gosh.
Yeah.
And that's the not so good battery.
Yeah, that's with the not so good battery, but the not so good battery still explodes at about 3 times as often as the ones that you get off the shelf. So keep that in mind. It's something that we're still trying to get a hang on.
Indeed.
So you have weaponized memory, is what you're saying.
We do not weaponize though.
If this were the sort of thing that you could trigger deliberately, I would say yes, this is weaponized. But no, it's a little too unpredictable for that.
We are not in favor of weaponization.
Yeah.
De-escalation, yes. Weaponization,
no. Weaponization, we actively resist. It's actually one of the reasons why we do a lot of the things that we do, and we don't allow anyone to tamper with whether or not, like, the drones. If the drone decides it gets involved, weaponization and resistance to being weaponized is one of the reasons why we don't let anybody but the drone make that decision.
Wow, I'm wondering which bit of your, it's going to sound awful, which bit of your development is going to be the bit that the industry picks up and runs with. It sounds like the battery, sounds like you could sell the battery part of this all day long.
I have no doubt, but I'll leave that to the battery producers that's their problem, not mine.
Indeed.
Yeah. As far as the industry taking this and running with it, we've been solicited for aerial security by some of the large stadiums that are out there, some that are currently being constructed. We've been solicited by some casinos, private property that's seeking aerial security, especially in the aftermath of Las Vegas. You can imagine.
Yeah, but how could it be worse?
Yeah, how could Las Vegas possibly have been worse?
2 ways.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, what if Las Vegas had happened at Wrigley Field? That would have been worse. What if Las Vegas had happened and somebody had returned fire? So that's kind of the scenarios that we think about. You think about, like, for example, the Boston Marathon. These are situations in which we kept in mind as we designed this. And so yeah. So as far as the industry picking it up and running with it, we get most of the pushback that we get actually comes from the industry. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, bullshit, because I already did.
We actually were told once that it would take a team of men years and a fortune to do what we were showing.
Yeah,
them.
that was the Army Corps of Engineers told us that. And I was like, but I just sent you a video of me doing exactly that thing. And he was like, oh, well, shut up. And I was like, there. Okay, whatever you think. Yeah, that's where we get most of our pushback. It's pretty funny. And I understand why. I do understand why.
What point are you at then? So you could do what you've described without releasing any sensitive information, but you can identify somebody from a distance that perhaps is carrying a gun, and then as you've been watching it for a little while, watching this person for a little while, you can discern if it's loaded, and then you can see if that person, and then decide to give a warning on the person taking an action. Is that where you're at? Is that what you can do?
Yeah, that's exactly where we are right now. That is the functionality, that, if you will, that's the baseline functionality that's being put forward to police. And
what would this cost me if I was to purchase this unit?
Our price line right now is about $70,000 a drone. We're trying to bring this out of the rafters, but I mean really it comes down to some of the sensors that we're looking at, and I mean I can quadruple that if I add that really cool battery.
Indeed.
Sounds like one or two flights on that cool battery, though, isn't it?
You would get a couple hundred flights.
You get a couple hundred flights, but they'll only be able to make 2 before they destroy the equipment.
Oh, okay.
That makes the battery.
Yeah, it comes. Yeah, the battery that the research facilities refuses to make them just because they're too dangerous to make.
Not for using, but to make itself.
Yeah, just to produce them. Yeah, we would have to gather data as to. There's a lot of data that would have to be gathered as to how many times you could use this before it explodes.
And the end goal actually, quite frankly.
I have to say, I love what we do. Because, we're chemistry class. Where else do you get encouraged to burn things?
Indeed.
Fair play.
It's an adventure. It is an adventure.
The end result, quite frankly, is every single human being on the planet to not have an Edna, to have a Medusa.
Yeah, well, to have each one of these, yeah. So one of the models that we have, it's kind of a personal use. Everybody, when you think about this, you think about, the ability to stop lethal force, at least some kind, one of the most common forms of lethal force, right? The ability to, that's something that everybody needs this. Everyone needs this. The world needs this.
I could be very controversial, couldn't I? Well, actually, I'm in South Africa. We do have quite a bit of gun violence here. Old Bruce would probably take quite a while before it's a necessary thing there. So there's only certain nations in the world that are going to find this really, really useful. Perhaps a nation that is rife with guns. I wonder where I'm thinking of.
I know, right? It's unsurprising. Unsurprising that a little startup in Texas came up with this, huh?
Here's the key thing, though. No one loses their guns.
Yeah, it's critical to point out that no one loses their guns. Holy God. Nobody loses their guns.
The only thing the drone stops is using said guns to kill other people.
Yeah, using the gun on other people is the only time that the drone cares.
You can have as many guns as you want.
Have all the guns you want.
Don't kill people, though.
That's where we're drawing the line.
So you might not want to answer this, but so it comes home, it's done a successful interdiction mission and all that, and it's learned quite a bit, I guess, as it's done that. Is there a system then to take the data and information from it watching crowds to improve the system? There must be. So
yes-ish. This is one of the things that's on our roadmap that we're working on.
Most of the
extrapolating, as you can imagine, extrapolating from a single reinforcement learning and ensuring that these results are replicable across the each of these units as to whether or not they've all. You don't want one learning something just wacky and then it's just
to everybody.
Yeah, or it's just gone off on a tangent. And that's one of the things that obviously, as we move forward with this, keeping that under control is something that we are aware of.
Most of the recording that would happen is if there's an active crime happening in there right at that moment, which would be someone having a gun pointing at other people.
But towards the reinforcement learning specifically, reinforcement learning is the kind of thing that if it goes off the rails, it's usually, I don't want to say that it's pretty for us, it's relatively obvious relatively quickly.
But rather not actually have to go back a notch. Better to keep going forward.
Just turn the tuning down a little bit.
Stepping back and then go forward.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear him.
Just turn the tuning down a little bit. We're just going to turn the dial.
Just kind of tinker with it just a little. It's
just move the slider a bit. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, right. Just nudge it down just a little.
Just a little. I-Force 2D again. If a suspect points his weapon at a nearby building, will the drone attempt to fly in? Will it try and defend the building? That's a good question.
Yes, it will. It will get in the way of. Yeah, it will. It's tracking. The thing that sets it off is first off the gun coming into play. It's a gun in the hand, and then it will attempt to position itself. It's smart enough to not try to. If you put a gun to your own head, it's smart enough to not try to get in the way there.
But anything else, pretty much.
Yeah, if it decides that there's room for it, it will try to get in the way, which means that yes, it will try to get into some very tight spaces. That you might think that it doesn't. That's the thing. It doesn't particularly care whether or not it gets hurt.
Yeah, the important thing is to stop the bullets from killing somebody else.
Yeah, and you think it can be. You can be pointing at the side of a building, but that building probably isn't nearly as bulletproof as this armor.
Indeed.
And if the gunman has two pistols, if the gunman has two pistols.
If the gunman has two pistols, it's probably going to track the one in the dominant hand that it assumes is the dominant hand. It's probably going to be the right hand.
Has it decided that then?
Yeah.
It's very easy to actually notice which one's the dominant hand because we have a lot of tells.
Yeah, and the reason for this, this has to do with this has more to do with tracking where it's the way that it's determining where the gun is being aimed. It's very, very difficult to accurately aim without looking at what it is that you're shooting at.
Yeah, it's not the movies.
This is not the movies, and it's hard enough to hit accurately with your on hand, if you will, if you're a trained shooter and so forth. It's kind of like what happens if you just brandish the weapon wildly. The gun will, like for example, in that scenario, the drone will attempt to track, but if you it's going to continue to track the business end of that firearm.
Also, let's not forget that it's not just one drone. In most scenarios, it's two drones.
Yeah, there actually is
together.
a second drone. There actually is a second drone, but toward that, it's, you know, when you have a single drone, a single drone will select exhaustively which one, you know what weapon it is tracking. So, like, for example, if someone else pulls out a gun, this drone isn't going to suddenly, you know, change its focus from this gun. It's going to remain focused on the first one that it saw.
This is really, it's rattling around in my head. I know you've mentioned movement and that helps and all that sort of thing, but why wouldn't I put it on the car and on a building and I'm getting loads and loads and loads of sensor points? Internet of Things, I suppose that's what we're going to say, and gunshot analysis and all that sort of thing.
Because we're not just building sensors, we're building shields.
Yeah, it's not just the sensors, it's the shield, because you can't move the car in place.
Okay.
You know, you can put the sensors wherever you want, but moving them and having them be on the drone is the most expeditious way of getting the drone where it needs to go.
And
so this is
protecting people.
I'm thinking now of like a superhero that chucks you know, you've got to brand it in a nice disc or something, and it's getting in the way.
Captain America.
Sure, why not?
It's Captain America's shield.
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, it's towards that. There's a degree of an element of human psychology that is involved. I mean, once the first drone comes into play, ignoring that is kind of like ignoring a flying blender. Okay, you're not going to rush it. You're not going to, you know, throw yourself at it. I mean, no matter what your suicide intentions are, getting into a fist fight with that thing is probably low on your list of things to do today.
Yep, no one looks at a blender and go like,
I'm going to stick my hand in there. You know, it's just not. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's other ways to take down drones. I mean, you could throw a T-shirt at it, it could come down.
Yeah, sure, you could, but while you're throwing the T-shirt at it, the cop is taking your legs out.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whether or not the drone gets destroyed is not the point.
Yeah, destroy the drone all you want, as long as nobody else gets hurt.
Go right ahead. You didn't shoot someone while you were doing that.
Which is actually preferable.
Yeah,
okay,
mission accomplished.
The problem is that the drone trying to track something like that, just some quick sums, if the drone's 100 feet away, and someone's got a pistol, and they move at 45 degrees in 100 milliseconds, the drone will have to travel at the speed of sound to follow the aim point at 100.
The drone is going to try to get a hell of a lot closer to you before it tries to. It's moving toward you. It's not going to do this from 100 feet away. It's going to get right up in your biz, and it's going to be hard for you to shoot around.
It detects it from a distance, but it actually blocks at close range.
If you will, imagine what happens, like, for example, with a canine. What does a canine do when a canine is trying to pin someone down but they haven't been given the order to bite? They get right up in your face and they just roar, roar, roar. It's nothing but teeth right in your face. That dog doesn't try to stop you from across the football field. They go streaking across the football field, get right in your face, and they're not going to bite you. But that kind of doesn't matter when you've got that dog right in your face, just snapping jaws, and it's a lot like that. And the drone's responses are kind of, in a lot of, they really are. Internally, we refer to them as a kind of an extra dumb drug dog
that doesn't bleed.
Yeah, it's an extra dumb drug dog that doesn't bleed, and it'll try to get right up in your biz, and it will stay in your biz until it can't. And
not only does it do that, but the shooter has to conform not just with the blades that are spinning around him, but also the lights that are shining at him.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. I mean, it's loud, it's intimidating, it's a lot of things that you don't want to stick your hand in there.
Indeed, when you're shooting at something, you need to be very precise. You need to actually pay attention. Like the movies and like other people go like, oh, I can shoot like with half my eye closed and I get everybody.
Yeah, with a
reality
blindfold.
Does not work like that.
Standing on one foot, upside down. Yeah, it's swinging on a rope through. No, it's not how that works in real life. That's actually
shotguns change that equation a little bit, don't they? Shotguns have a fairly wide field.
That is true. That is very, very true.
And why don't, if you're going to be that close to the perp, why do you not have a taser on board that drone to disable the perp?
Weaponization.
It's that is a judgment call.
Or is it a defensive system?
What if it's the cop who pulls a gun? Now you just tased the cop. That's totally counterproductive.
It's part of a whole thing about de-escalating.
The drone is not smart enough to make that call. Let's let human judgment decide what to do next.
Because at the end of the day, the best way to make an armed situation worse is to add more weapons to that scenario.
Yeah.
Let's put as little weapons on play as possible so the human beings can deal with it wonderfully.
So the police. Yeah, this is not the police. This is just an additional tool.
Yeah.
And that is actually one of the things that police prefer about this is, the drone isn't going to let anything happen to you, but it's not going to try to be you.
And it's not going to try to take your job either.
How many seconds does it give to comply?
Yeah.
As many as you need.
You've already won quite a few awards, I think, for this from various places. Can you? So maybe you could just quickly run through those. And time's getting on. We must move on to Steve, and we must get your input on the rest of the industry as well. But no, this has been amazing. My flab is aghast in a lot of ways. I can see it, but I can see the industry being very, very
resistant,
unfriendly. Yeah,
they are.
Yeah,
they really, really are.
It's funny that the police are
the friendliest one.
Yeah, police are open and welcoming. City governments and so forth are as open and welcoming as government gets. I mean, for God's sakes, we advise other countries' militaries on this sort of thing. It's crazy. But yeah, the industry is weirdly hostile. And I mean, honestly, it's not. What are they going to do? Stop us?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Versus the police, which I've seen bulk, heavy, built cops start getting teary-eyed and going we had to deal with that last week.
Yeah.
And they look like they just lost their best friend because
these big, scary, intimidating guys, and you're like, well, officer, we have a solution for it right here in our hand. But towards that, you were asking about some of the awards that we have won. We won, let's see here, St. Louis Roadshow. We went to TechCrunch Disrupt. We were selected for TechCrunch Battlefield. We also won SheEO top 25 finalists. We will find out whether or not we are SheEO winners probably later on next week. Women Who Code for technology leadership.
UI drone.
Women in drones for technology for 2017. We've won a couple things.
Indeed.
It's good stuff.
6 or 7.
I mean, for 2017 was a good year.
And who's counting?
Most recently covered by Forbes. We were actually also by SiriusXM.
Fun times.
Well,
good stuff, Finland.
As they say, points mean prizes, and I'll be very interested to see where all this technology. I'm going to be. What I'm going to be following the most is to see which one of your innovations breaks out and works and is accepted. Not works. Sorry, that's rude. I'm sure they all work. But which one is the one that gets picked up and it really accepted? It'll be very interesting. And I wish you all the best with that. But please stick around and join in with in the 6 minutes remaining. That's it. No, that's fine. Steve.
Hi, everyone.
Tell us, Steve.
Yes.
Tell us what you're.
Well, that is a tough act to follow. Hi. Where to begin, Gary? We're in the CBO realm here, yeah. In terms of what's happening in the United States with what's going on with recreational use and where to begin. I mean, we feel that the Drone User Group Network, of which I preside over, we're really of the strong opinion that while Part 336 is in existence, there's a big push within the industry, if you want to call it that, the big players, the Googles, the Amazons, and so forth, to kind of there's a push to kind of get rid of 336 and to try to push everybody into a 107 pool, and we just really feel that is it's just not acceptable to us as an advocacy group for drones, because I mean, if your kid, I know you have small children, mine are in college, thank heavens, I guess. But the point is that if you've got small children that want to fly a drone in the backyard, should that kid have to get licensed or certificated? That's just really unfortunate. And the other thing is that we have a nice cordial working relationship with AMA, the Academy of Model Aeronautics, but just recently the AMA put out Rich Hansen put an op-ed piece in The Hill that was really kind of a shot across the bow of everybody who wasn't in their in their club, in their organization, that basically they were effectively saying that if you're not an AMA member, then you're a rogue pilot. And I might be oversimplifying that, and I'm not looking for fighting words. It's not the point. But we do really feel very strongly that it's important that the AMA not be the sole CBO that may or may not be recognized by the FAA. But it's really important that we have other voices in community building and in advocacy, and bridging gaps between recreational commercial use, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it is a bit of a revolving door. I mean, the AMA's historical membership has been replica modeling, jet models. No slam against any of that. But the drone user community is very, very different, and people enter through recreation and education, and they often go through the turnstile to go on to be commercial operators, B107 operators, and so forth. And we want to continue that. So we've been really pushing with the beginning of the year to try and build the DUG further. We admittedly have been a little hinky. Well, hinky is the wrong word, but a little inconsistent is a good way to look at it. Our leadership, myself included, we have real lives, real jobs, real families. We're all volunteer based. We're not funded in any way by corporate interests. Not that we wouldn't be interested, but right now we are purely a grassroots organization, and we can't do it ourselves. So we're really looking for people to get involved and to effectively to help us grow. And to that end, what we are doing is, and we're just about to announce this within the next couple of days as we sort of tune the message, but we are collaborating with Precision Autonomy, which is a startup. They're based out of Austin, Texas, and also Australia. And
they're great guys. They are great guys.
Oh, wonderful! I'm glad you know them. Yeah, sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been kind of communicating with them over the last almost 2 years now, and they are helping the DUG to present their software solution for drone management on a very holistic and very kind of how would I put this? A very sort of a la carte way, all from upstream to downstream, from asset management, mission planning, compliance to some degree, although we haven't really wanted to get into that. But ultimately, the goal is to be able to offer discounted use of the Precision Autonomy software in exchange or as part of your DUG membership. And within what we hope to be within the next 6 months, to be able to offer usage-based insurance for recreational and commercial users. So on a minute-by-minute national basis, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, a way to actually monetize your insurance expenses and to work on a kind of almost like the safe driver discount. We ask that that our members voluntarily share their data logs, which will never be sold, never be shared with anybody else. They still own them. We're working very hard on crafting the message that the data is safe and secure, and that we've always been, as most advocacy groups are, we're all about responsible operations and safe practices, and this is a way for us to back it up with data and to provide data points to the insurance industry, to a global and or national insurer to take on this assignment.
Steve, toward what you're saying.
Yep.
Wow, there's an echo on me.
I don't hear the echo, but go ahead.
Okay. Toward what you're saying, and providing that data. That was actually something that we were offering to them, as well as our modeling capabilities in terms of AI, and using that and that data specifically modeled for risk management, I think was of interest to them as well. So I would very much so vouch for the security and the anonymization of the data. Obviously, we wouldn't even be considering allowing them to look at what we're doing if we thought that there was any possibility. So towards what you were saying, absolutely, we would vouch for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that, because I mean, it reaffirms what I feel. In my interactions in the drone community, I've always been, and the Doug has been very, very transparent, and we have no intention of changing that. And you know, we're not going to hide behind the veil of something that we don't believe in. And this is a way for us to really grow the drone industry and drone community in a way that will help everybody. So this is super exciting for us. Something that we're going to be announcing within the next day or so, complete with you know, a limited free use of the Precision Autonomy application suite and Precision Tracks app for iOS, and I think they're working on Android as well. And then you know, the provision of data that actually will provide the operator with a kind of insurability rating, or maybe I'm not saying that right, but basically you provide data, we provide you with a kind of a rating. We've got or I should say PA has a 25-point rating system for operations. I'm not under the hood in that. That's a little bit above my my grade of involvement. But I believe them when they say what they're saying. And this is a way for the Doug to really compete with the AMA in terms of value proposition. I think that's something that we've always struggled with. Go ahead, Gary.
No. Well, funnily enough, Rich was going to come on today, but I mucked it up. So sorry, Rich. I know you're watching, and I'm sorry. I forgot to invite.
Rich. Yeah, I hope I'm not.
Rich is going to come on next Tuesday instead. He's a busy man at the moment. I think it's next Tuesday. He just said to me in an email. I was just tapping as you was talking. But
I'm glad you bring him up, because if I may, I mean, I'm glad you bring him up, because Rich has really been a proponent of the Doug. He's been supportive of us. Kenji Sugahara, who's our policy director, was on the UASID ARC with Rich, and Rich had only had, you know, just warmth and welcoming, and really encouraged our participation, and we really want that to continue. This is not an us or them situation. This is there should be more than one voice, and we agree on many things. We don't disagree on that much, and it's just a matter of, you know, we have a different community that we serve, and that's great. So that's really just we just feel that this will help put us on the map a little bit more.
And to speak to data, and to speak to the accuracy of data, so it's great that I can think of two stories, Bruce, two stories that rely heavily on data. One where the data was skewed, and one where the data was wrong. Are we going to, Bruce, are we going to get to a point where we have better data than manned aviation, so we can stick it to them?
Not the way things are going, we might.
I can tell you right now that point is already here, but that has to do with our ability to model and to run, to emulate, and things that are a little harder that you can't quite collect unless you're flying live. But yes, you're absolutely right. We do have better data. We can emulate it at 10,000 flights per hour.
Oh, absolutely. It was simulation, of course, but I think I was trying to get out of Bruce there. I don't know if you guys there saw it over at Astral, but there was two incidents, and one was very close to him. And because it's in New Zealand, of course, anything that's in New Zealand is Bruce's fault. I think that's an easier way just to deal with it. We'll just make it his fault. But I thought that airspace. It's just you've got to make you said it yourself. We've got to simplify things, and I'm simplifying it. There was an airspace incident across with a fire there, and that was a data issue, and the other one was the cockpit stuff in the UK. Do you want to unpack that a little bit for us, Bruce? I see you had a rant about it.
Yeah, I did actually. Those tests that were done in the UK with phantom or drones impacting airliner cockpit windows, and the people who did the test said, "Oh no, these drones are really dangerous. They can penetrate the cabin window of an airliner." And then when pressed for details and the actual data from the tests, the UK government said, "Oh no, we can't possibly give you that information because terrorists could use it." And then it turned out a technical publication called The Register has done a bit of ferreting and got its hands on some information, and it seems that the results were not what were claimed, that a Phantom 4 won't go through the windscreen of an airliner under normal conditions. But I guess that didn't suit the argument, the hysteria, the drones are dangerous mantra that the authorities have been pitching, so they covered it up and just gave us some rubbish as a result. It's not a good look. It shows that there's still this overwhelming ideology of let's make drones look bad. Certainly coming from within some regulators and within the manned aviation industry in some cases. The other thing was here in New Zealand, we had a wildfire, and there were 8 helicopters trying to put out this wildfire. And some tourist from Chile had his Mavic, and he says he was flying far enough away from the helicopters not to be a risk to them, but he was arrested and his drone was confiscated. And it brings up an interesting issue because I got an email from someone who knows, who said, well, if he was relying on the AirMap app that our Airways administrator, the air traffic control people, are pushing as the way to fly safely, and this app, in the press release that Airways did, they said it provides real-time information about other aircraft movements so that you can maintain separation. Well, apparently this app doesn't even download NOTAMs from the agency that issues a NOTAM. So if you pull the app out, you don't even have a list of NOTAMs. So if this guy was flying in the vicinity of the fire, I'm pretty sure there would have been a NOTAM advising aviation to stay clear because there were firefighting operations. He wouldn't have got that. So this app he may well have got a green light because he may have been flying in an area where, there was no other reasons not to fly. So if you rely on these apps, you're an idiot. I mean, you're an idiot for flying anywhere you can see a helicopter for a start because, you're bound to be seen as evil. But if you rely on the word of the airspace management people that, use our app and you'll be safe and you'll be, whatever, obviously that is a bad thing to do because the guy's now facing up to 14 years in jail for endangerment of a transport.
Wow. Well, I'm going to plug them again. If you go to the drone safety map on our very front page and you click the altitude, it's altitude angel map, but that NOTAM is on that map. It's a free service, costs you nothing, dear end user. And I thought AirMap's excuse, if it's true, which I read on the social networks, was that the NOTAMs were passed in a particularly unusual way in New Zealand, which is, of course, it's absolute drivel. It's an international standard. Boom, that's it.
If I could interject, sorry, gentlemen, I just have to say towards that nonsense, because that's nonsense. That's not the way software works.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. And you see, when I was a nipper, I was the human interface between the teleprinter and a whiteboard, and I put the NOTAMs out. I spent many hours doing that. So I know how the system works. And you're quite right. Software just pulls it in and does it automatically. But rubbish in, rubbish out. That's also how softwares and computers work, isn't it? And if we are going to go down this into this app-based world to stop people flying, then or to make sure they can fly in the correct, that upset them. They went away. Didn't like that. Then the information's got to be right, and it's got to be done at a local level. If it's New Zealand airspace information, then I firmly believe that the New Zealand, I can't remember what they're called now, but they should be in charge of that data, and they should be the people pushing it out to the apps, the UK, and whatever. It can't be offshore, that sort of safety stuff. I'm ranting. Save me from the rant, Bruce. Save me, someone save me.
It can't be done. Hey, one word to finish the program: tello.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that. It's
Game
very
changer?
nice. Yeah, we put it on toast. It's great.
Is that a game changer though? I mean, is it suddenly a $99 drone from DJI that's got optical flow? It's got 30-minute flight, 13 minutes of flight time. It's got all fancy diddly bits, and it can loop around Nerf balls and things. Is that going to change the game?
Tiny
What
bit.
game are we talking about? What game?
Have you not seen it?
Games. I'm not saying there aren't, but what game?
We'll just
Entry-level drone game. You know, where all the Chinese manufacturers are sitting with their little Cheers and whatevers and their whatever. You know, you can buy a Chinese knockoff drone or a Chinese drone for $100, and you know it'll fly around until it doesn't. But now DJI are entering at that level with drones that have got some pretty it's got some pretty fancy features in it. And how are the Chinese going to respond to that?
Well, they've done a very good job of snuffing out market competitors at all levels. I mean, the karma's gone, right? You know, I think that it's you know, it's interesting. I mean, I teach high school. I teach high school UAS, robotics, physics, and my students were talking to me today about the Tello, and they're like, "We've got to get some of those. That's you know this is the thing for us to get." And there's also some teaser on the webpage about, I see Victor Villegas is just posting here that it looks like a good educational platform, and exactly. So the thing is that like I'm working with Pixhawk quite a bit with my students, those that are taking it the next step because of the open source, but they are teasing something about a coding opportunity or coding access for the Tello. So, but there's nothing else on the page. There's nothing else that dives deeper into that. I know that there's a gentleman named I'm sorry. There's a company named Drone Blocks, which is sort of like a object-based programming for drones, and I believe they're involved, but I can't say for sure. But listen, anything that gets this kind of knowledge into the hands of young people is great, and it's a small and affordable and clearly going to be much more dependable, you know, relatively speaking, than you know the Cheerson that you're speaking of, Bruce.
And it's under 250 grams too, so this is sort of going to change the regulatory situation as well, isn't it? Because suddenly you don't need to register it, you don't need to, you know, there'll be people out with these things in the streets and in the parks flying under the 250 gram limit.
If you read the blurb, I mean, it does say that it's primarily an indoor device. You know, that they don't recommend flying it in a windy setting or, you know, with any wind. So it remains to be seen how
their own promo video shows it flying outside and things. So people will fly it outside, and may have a relatively limited speed range, but on a nice fine day down at the park, I can imagine the sky being filled with these things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised it's brushed. I am surprised at that, but you might have a technical reason why it is, Bruce. Do you think there's a good reason
price.
for
price? Price.
Okay.
Brush motors are cheap as beans.
Yeah. And brush PSCs, you know, more expensive.
Okay, well that's obvious. Now you say it, of course, that's obvious. Yes, it does look very much like a lot of the well, it looks very much like, at the end of the day, a quad's only 2 sticks and 4 motors, isn't it? So they're all going to look the same, basically. Yeah, no, the technology in it's very interesting, and I think if regulators, it depends if 250 grams truly came for safety or came just to put a spanner in the works. And at the end of the day, 250 is what is always going to stuff GoPro, because if you want to put, I don't know what a GoPro camera weighs, but that's most of your 250, I'm sure. It's just the camera itself. So
also, the Tello is not made by DJI. It's made by another company. So what is this a purchase? Is this an acquisition, or is this a third party that they purchased the you know, how does that set up?
I'm not sure, maybe a joint venture or something, but don't worry about cameras, Gary. They're getting smaller and lighter all the time. I'm amazed at how some of these new, very small cameras are performing, and so that's not going to be a real issue, I don't think.
But not if you were GoPro, though. If you were GoPro and if you were trying to sell your Hero 6s or whatever, then
that's going to knock them around a bit. But one thing I noticed on the promotional vid for that Tello thing is swarming. Now, how's that going to work with the government's, oh, we don't want swarming drones? If this API for the software allows people to create swarms, what's going to happen from a regulatory perspective there?
Well, I think the swarms that we were seeing that were in a friendly swarm with your chums making formation flights, because there were lots of people stood around with controllers. If you looked, it didn't look like one person, one swarm.
But did you see the one where it was that we had the sort of up and down drones with the music?
Yeah, with the music.
Was one person and multiple drones, so effectively it's a swarm.
Yeah. Shocking behavior amongst young adults. Imagine that's never happened before. Intel flying display swarms, Victor. Yes, the mini in fact that Tello announced rather knocked the wind out of that Intel announce. But I know they had hundreds of them with the Intel thing, but plainly you could see that. And also I see in China, I think last week, didn't we have a swarm of over 1,000? There's 1,100, I think, wasn't it? Something like that. So it's it's all the rage, isn't it? It's definitely all the rage. Now,
I've actually got a jet, but
cool.
Good to see you all. Thank you very much
it's very typical of you to have to. You probably do have to go and get on a jet because that's the sort of person you are. And
that's me. Yes,
it's so nice.
Living the dream.
Very reactionary.
Yes.
Oh,
take care, all. Well, I missed that. What did you say, Bruce?
I said you're very reactionary.
Reactionary. I don't know what to say about that.
Well, anyway, all right, Steve. That's probably just as good a time as ever then to say for all this. Unless you've got anything more to say, Bruce. Have you got anything else you've seen, mate?
No, I'm all done.
You're done. Yeah, I saw your anti video today. You got that out early. I saw that. We're not. It's just you and I now. I don't know. Shall we stop the broadcast or shall we continue?
Well, I'm done, mate. I've got nothing else to say.
All right, mate. Cool. All right. Well, thanks very much. And hopefully, dear viewer, you can join us again next week. I am going to quite a few heated comments there about the Astral AR guys in the live feed there. As Bruce always says, reaction, positive or negative, is always good. Look out for Bruce's updates and RC model reviews and XJet. I didn't actually... Then look out for the abuse of animals on his channel, and I've already sent off letters to PETA and other people. And anyway,
wait till you see the rabbit video, mate. Wait till you see the rabbit video.
I was trying to trap you into the next thing, and it worked. I got it out of you. Didn't take much. All right, mate. Thanks very much, Bruce. Hopefully, join us next week, dear viewer. 2100 GMT, same place, same time. All the good things. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got anything or anyone you'd like us to track down and ask questions and nonsense of, then please send me an email, gary@susnews.com, and we'll try and make that happen. Have a very lovely rest of the week, everyone. The weekend will be here soon. Cheerio.